10 arrests, hundreds of tires, and 4 suspects still on the run. This afternoon, DeKalb police are cracking down on illegal dumping across the county. I'm Sabria Sandlin. Thanks for being with us. Atlanta News First, Don Shipman is live with the First Alert breaking news tracker in DeKalb County. So, Don, you're behind a church.
Yeah, and this is just one of the locations. They would pull up, back up their truck here, and then unload hundreds of tires. You can see this chain link fence, and they've actually cleaned up all of those tires. There aren't any tires back here now. This isn't the only place either. There are several locations. County officials say that South DeKalb and East DeKalb are hot spots for illegal dumping. In fact, we've covered this story many times here in DeKalb County. Now here at this church, it is Temple of Faith, and DeKalb police say that they were hit twice in the past few weeks. Some 300 tires dumped here. But on the second illegal dumping, police caught them in action. The suspect using a U-Haul truck to dump tires behind the church. Now, at today's news conference, I asked DeKalb's CEO, who foots the bill when someone illegally dumps tires?
Once those tires are illegally dumped, it becomes the responsibility of the property owner to remediate the conditions. And this has resulted in an unfair burden, financial burden, on businesses and even single-family residents across DeKalb County.
Now back out here live right now, DeKalb, they have warrants out for 4 people suspected of illegal tire dumping, and I have their names and descriptions on our website. And then this right here, they're trying to be proactive now, so they've started up an amnesty program, and that program basically allows people to properly dispose of those tires. They set up drop-off points, and they will post when those drop-off points are and where they are throughout the county. They usually do them on a Saturday. That way you can properly dispose of those tires. We're live here in DeKalb. Don Shipman, Atlanta News First.
All right, thank you, Don. And DeKalb officials aren't the only ones cracking down. Mapleton leaders setting new penalties for illegal tire dumping. City leaders just updated their solid waste management ordinance. It is now illegal to dump scrap tires anywhere in the city. Violators can face fines, jail time, and court-ordered cleanup. City leaders say the goal is to cut out the eyesores, reduce mosquito risks, and keep neighborhoods cleaner.